Hey everyone, Gerry T here, and I'm about to be playing another standard daily for you guys. And I want to take a minute to just talk about Yuya Watanabe because that guy is just great. And it's easy for someone to be like, oh, like everyone says he's great, the media says he's great. Like, obviously he's good at Magic, but like just a very likable dude, very, very nice guy. And it looks like he brought his A game to Worlds. So definitely happy to see him repeat his top 4 performance and have a shot at taking a second title there. It'd be pretty exciting to have that happen. Like he's been a little slow on the PT circuit, not necessarily as of late, but just in general has 2 or 3 top 8s. I cannot remember, but like someone who is held in like such a high regard as he is, like you would expect him to be like, Paulo or someone, like someone that just has like 9 top 8s or whatever, and slowly but surely he's making that happen, and I'm really glad to see him get his dues because that guy is just one of the all-time greats, straight up, and his deck is fantastic. So, end of October, a few months ago, there was this tournament in Japan. Saito tweeted about it, like tweeted the deck list, and Yuya was in top 8, but they did not post his deck list. He asked for it to remain secret and not be public. And ethics aside, I don't really like that practice, but I understand where he's coming from, especially because this was the deck he was playing. He had this deck 2 months ago, which is crazy to me. And like Jeskai Ascendancy has 1-2 opens at this point, but both of them were featuring the Springleaf Drum Retraction Helix combo, and he's not messing it with any of that. He's just killing people. That's it. And his deck is awesome. I played it a little bit a couple days ago, and it was good. It was hard to play. It was tough to actually like get into the rhythm of making these decisions, and I'm still not 100% there, but basically this deck is just kind of like a tokens deck. And there's some obvious synergies here. We have Seeker of the Way, Prowess. So Seeker's not supposed to play well with creatures, but when you have token creatures, you have Raise the Alarm, Holding Outburst. You get to play more creatures and trigger Prowess with Seeker and the fake Prowess ability of the lifelink, which is really important. And that's level 1, right? Like you play tokens with Seeker of the Way, and it's great. You play Rabble Master because it makes more tokens and it gets bigger with your Holding Outburst. There's the whole Brad Nelson thing where the deck that he built for Pro Tour Cons had Rabble Master and Outburst because his opponents would always keep open mana to kill Rabble Master. And then he would play Holding Outburst, and then they would have this basically useless mana, because they're not going to Lightning Strike a Goblin token or whatever, but they also can't just like tap out and play their own Seeker and just get Rabble Mastered. So this is a pretty solid core here. Seeker, Rabble Master, Outburst, Raise the Alarm. You just need something to do with these tokens because there's a lot of stuff, like Corsair Crewfix, Siege Rhino, what have you, that just blanks all of them. So previously you'd see something like Spear of Heliod, maybe Hall of Triumph, that type of stuff. But this deck goes for Jeskai Ascendancy. And one of the things that you might notice as you play out games with this deck is that Ascendancy is great. It is fantastic if you untap with it. Sometimes you don't even need to untap with it. Sometimes you just have a bunch of Stoke the Flames. You just go off. But if you untap with it, your guys are huge. If you don't draw Ascendancy, or in the post-board games, they kill Ascendancy, then your token creatures are kind of weak. And that's just generally a concern. That is just something that happens. Sometimes you can use the 1/1s to trade up with things like Stoke the Flames, Lightning Strike. You can jam a Raise the Alarm token into a Corsair. You're pretty happy to Lightning Strike and make that trade. Same deal with Stoke the Flames and Siege Rhino. But when you have Ascendancy, this deck feels broke. And when you don't have it, it feels kind of medium. And I don't think that means that you should be looking for more Ascendancy type things, but I do think that you need to play your Ascendancies very carefully because they are super important and you want to get the value out of them when you have them. So some other stuff, Ascendancy fills the yard for Treasure Cruise, which is pretty important. This is your late game thing. Also, Cruise works well with Outburst and Raise the Alarm, much like Seeker does. So sometimes when you have Ascendancy, you're playing out your cards and you're looting. Eventually you get to a point where you're hellbent, and then the looting stops being good, and that's where Treasure Cruise is just like, hello. Now you have 3 cards. You have a fresh new hand. You probably have a bunch of not so great cards. You might have excess lands or just cards that are not very effective, and you can just loot those away. So Cruise makes your Ascendancies much better. Ascendancies make your Cruises much better, and it just gives you this really, really sick late game. Other than that, 24 lands, pretty standard stuff. Nothing too out of the ordinary. A couple Jeskai charms. This is pretty reasonable removal against things like Siege Rhino. Also, I've had to use this on Hornet Nest a little bit, just because Hornet Nest doesn't really shut you down by any means, but it can take a couple turns to break through. So Charm is there to handle stuff like that. Also, the lifelink is pretty relevant in matchups where you end up racing. And then other than that, there are a couple Chandra Pyromasters, and that leads me to believe that Yuya thinks that blue-black control is probably not a great matchup, because Chandra as a whole has not been super impressive for me, but it's been reasonable, you know, and I just feel like a card like Chandra is very clearly a nod to, like, hey, our control matchup is not great, but after playing against blue-black control, I'm not sure if it's actually that bad. It's certainly not bad enough to warrant Chandra's main deck, but I totally see where Yuya is coming from with this, but I feel like Chandra could be something a little bit better. As for the sideboard, you see a lot of these Jeskai decks, Mardu decks, even some of the Abzan decks, they have this sideboard plan where they transition, they shift roles, and they become this more controlling deck. And at this point, everyone knows about it, but it doesn't really matter because they have to guess. Like, your game one is just like this really fierce, lean, beatdown deck that has Ascendancy and the sick late game with Treasure Cruise, right? So are they going to board in all their Drown in Sorrows and Anger of the Gods and things of that nature? Or are they going to be like, well, I know he's got a bunch of end hostilities. He has like an Elspeth, you know, some other Planeswalkers maybe, some counter spells, some removal spells, whatever. And Drown in Sorrows not good against that deck. So even game two, where maybe the token deck won game one and they're on the draw, and like the control plan is a little bit better when you're on the draw because, you know, when you're on the draw, maybe they can just like get you with a Siege Rhino and a Drown in Sorrow and you're just on the back foot the entire time. You want end hostilities to be live, and it is much better on the draw because you have that extra card. You get to feign weakness by being behind. You know, you play out this outburst and they deal with it. You maybe play out something else and they deal with it, and then you're like, all right, wrath you. But on the play, it looks kind of sketchy to, you know, be holding back, not necessarily playing everything. Or you play Outburst and then a Rabble Master or something, and they don't deal with them in time, but eventually they deal with them. Then you're just like down a bunch of cards. Not a bunch of cards, but, you know, like you have to keep committing things to the board to make it look like you're not holding back. And you're down a card because you're on the play. You don't have that draw step. So even sometimes getting to 5 mana is tough. So basically I feel like the sideboard plan is better on the draw, and it makes them have to make tough decisions, you know, where Drown is good against one plan but not the other, and if they have it in their deck when it's bad, it makes your end hostilities and stuff like that much better because they don't have a good follow-up then, you know. They have to commit enough to the board to make you wrath, and then you hit them, and then they just have like this Drown in their hand that is not doing anything. They really just need a follow-up. So even though everyone knows about this stuff, it's still good. Like, you're not going to get people, you know, you're not going to get their entire hand or whatever, but it's a solid plan. You get to make up for a lot of lost tempo and everything. So Yuya is doing a pretty good job of that. He has end hostilities. He has an Elspeth at the top of his curve. He has 4 Disdainful Strokes to stop things that are tough to deal with, like Hornet Queen, Whip of Erebos, Siege Rhino, what have you. Glare of Heresy, also really good against Siege Rhino. And I feel like this package is great, and I would be curious to see exactly what cards he is cutting in sideboarding. I don't know for sure, but Chandra, not so good against things like Siege Rhino and stuff. So, again, Chandra, I'm a little skeptical about. I like this big sideboard plan. The erases, I think, are kind of a necessary evil because Whip of Erebos was already really popular. And at Worlds, a bunch of people played it. They didn't do too well, but I don't think that really matters. Like, when you see that, like, you know, 6 of the best people in the world, it was probably more than 6, it might be like 9, you know, play like a Sidisi whip deck in possibly the biggest tournament of their careers, that's an indicator that deck is probably pretty good, and you might consider playing that because, like, these guys are not bad. They don't make bad decisions all the time. Sometimes, you know, we all we all make some mistakes here and there, but so many people chose to play that deck, and it's probably because it's good, and that means that other people are going to play it, and that means that you should be prepared for it. So, in addition to that, you also have Yuya in top 4 of this tournament. So now, people are probably going to play Ascendancy, and you're probably going to want some erases against them too. The other cards, two Magma Sprays, 1 Anger, and I was playing around with just having like 3 or 4 Angers, and I liked that a little bit better. I'm not sure if the sprays are for Jeskai specifically, where you want to tag their Seeker and their Rabble Master, and the entire time you're trying to like commit to the board as well. So spray is a cheap spell, which is always welcome with Jeskai Ascendancy, and maybe it's 4 matchups where you think that you're going to be committing to the board and you don't actually want to anger your own stuff away. So I think you could play more Angers. You could definitely get away with that, but I totally see where Yuya's coming from with the sprays. But other than that, guys, this deck is cool. You should check it out. If you were playing other versions of Jeskai, you should probably at least try this deck because it is really powerful, really cool. Things like Doomwake Giant, kind of difficult to beat, but you can get around that, and after playing some games with this deck, you will be shocked to see how resilient it is. So check it out for sure.